Hi everybody, welcome to the Houston Clutter Coaching Meetup group in August of 2016. Say hi everybody.
Hi.
Our topic tonight is, you have to look up, stopping the fire hose, preventing clutter at its source. We all have trouble spots of clutter all over the house, right? And there's always an underlying trigger for why it's there. And most of the time we just sort of live with the clutter spots there and we don't think about them. But tonight we're going to talk about looking at the derivative behavior, looking at what is contributing to the clutter, how it's originating, and we can talk about what the source is and maybe we can shift it around, right? Maybe we can find a solution for you. So that's our topic tonight. We want to identify where it originates. Let me give you an example. Maybe you have a bunch of clothes all over the house, in the bedroom, on the exercise machine. That seems to be a favorite one. One of my clients has a canopy bed, and she hangs clothes all the way around the canopy bed. And then she sort of parts them to get into the bed. Clearly there's a clutter issue there, right? So what we want to talk about tonight is what creates that environment, what creates that problem, and what can we look at to shift, to troubleshoot, give you a solution. Okay, so let's start with the clothes ones. If you have clothes all over your bed, all over the exercise machine, all over the, hanging on the doorknob, we tend to put them on the doorknob. If you have a piece of furniture in there, they go on the chair, right? Or the ottoman at the end of the bed, there's clothes everywhere like that. If your closet is completely full and you walk up to the door and you can't get in, or you can't get past the opening of the door, you're just sort of reaching into the closet to get stuff because it's full up to the door. These are signs that this is a clutter issue for you. This is a clutter problem for you. Maybe it's that you are shopping faster than you need the clothes, right? You're shopping for fun and entertainment instead of for how much clothes you actually need. Or maybe it's that you don't like to do laundry, and so you buy clothes so that you don't have to do laundry. That might be the source. I know some people that, and I had a client who, their solution to not doing laundry was, I don't have any more underwear, I'm going to go buy some more underwear. Except today's, new clothes are tonight's laundry, right? So that's sort of a cycle to create constant extra clothes in the house. So whether it's that you don't like to do the laundry, or you don't like to put the clothes up, or you like to shop faster than you use, or you shop faster than you have storage for, all of those are your contributing behavior options to too many clothes in the closet, right? If you hate to do laundry, maybe it's better to do smaller loads, right? The solution to I hate to do laundry, that's why my clothes are backed up everywhere, is not to have the mammoth laundry day. I've met people who do that and they wait for a month and then they spend the entire weekend doing laundry. And then they're miserable and angry and frustrated, which is a guarantee to make you wait another month before you do laundry again, right? So maybe the solution is to do laundry in smaller loads and more frequently so that you can keep laundry moving without using up all of your free time and, patience, right? This is probably why I thought of you, because I was thinking about shopping for fun. If you like to shop and that you're entertaining yourself with, I like to hunt for the bargain. I think it's fun to find new and pretty things. I like to go with my girlfriends and go shopping for new clothes. It's something that we do. It's part of being American. We go shopping a lot, right? And so if that's something that you like to do, and that's creating a backlog in your house, it might be time to occasionally pick something else to do with your friends, right? Come up with a hobby to do. If you're just trying to entertain yourself, to have fun, make an effort to figure out what else would be fun for you instead. Maybe you guys can go to a museum, maybe you can go to a lecture, maybe your girlfriends can go take a class. Whatever it is that gives you entertainment without you having to, and you'll still spend money to go take a class or to go do a movie or whatever you're going to do. You're still going to spend the money, but then you don't add more clothes into the house, right? So you can look at changing shopping as entertainment into something else as entertainment, and that will help you deal with the clutter problem at the source. You understand what I'm saying here? You follow me? Okay. Let's try another one. Maybe you have a lot of trash laying around the house. Some people are like that. They open something up and the packaging immediately falls out of their hand while they go on to do the rest. They're tearing something open while they're cooking and the trash ends up on the counter. They drink a drink and leave it behind. This is a teenage boy thing. All teenage boys take the food where they're going to play the video, watch the television, whatever, and then the food stays there forever. Or the empty Coke cans stay there forever, right? Some people just don't think about it once they're finished with it, and it just becomes part of the landscape. If you're one of those people that doesn't do trash immediately, then you're going to create a clutter problem in the house of a bunch of trash everywhere, right? Yes, ma'am.
A quick question about that.
Sure.
I just bought something today, a little 4 USB port to stick to my computer.
Right.
So I didn't have to keep, picking stuff out. Anyway, I just thought for half a second, well, what if this thing doesn't work? And now I'm thinking, well, how long do I keep the package just in case? I mean, what do you think, like a week, maybe, or?
So how much was the little part that you bought?
It was like $8, I think.
So is it worth your time to worry about it? If it dies, are you just going to get another one?
Yeah, I would have to get another
right?
one, yeah.
And so maybe you want to keep it for a week. But then the thing about it is, if you go park the bag somewhere and then forget about it for 6 months, then it's trash in your house somewhere, right? So you do have to, that's a system that you're talking about creating, and you do have to think about, how can I manage this so that I don't forget and just keep adding bags? Because the default position will be, this is where I store the bags for later. This is where I store the stuff in case I take it back, and then you never take anything out. So you do have to create a system of, I'm going to put it in, I'm going to take it out. I'm going to put it in, I'm going to take it out. Every time you put something in, rummage around in there and see if there's something that's ready to come out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And also give yourself a threshold. Is $8 enough for you to worry about? If it is, then you want to keep up with it. If $8 is not worth your time, and you're just going to not try to take the dead one back and just go buy something else instead, then throw it out. Maybe the threshold is $20, maybe the threshold is $3. It's up to you. You want to keep the receipt, and you want to keep the packaging, maybe. And I would find a box, a drawer, a cabinet that you can put stuff in. But like I said, you don't want to just be pushing, it's just another closet. So you don't want it just to be going in. It has to be coming back out again for that system to work. Because you really don't want to keep it a week, right? You really only want to keep it in case there's massive failure up front, right? Or you tried and you don't like it. You don't think it's fast enough or whatever. And so you don't want to keep it long term. There's exceptions to that, I'll circle back. Electronics seem to be something that, IT people always want to keep the boxes forever. Because somehow when they resell the vintage piece of electronics, it needs to have the box with it. Which is, let me just say, the bane of my existence. I put more empty electronic boxes into the craziest storage places, trying to keep them out of everybody's hair, and they still want to keep the 17 boxes that the guy wants to keep. Yes, ma'am?
What do you do with the old cords that used to go with computers you don't have anymore?
I know, right? Oh my gosh. That's one of the things that I take to electronic recycling, actually.
So where is electronic recycling?
In Houston, it's at West Park, the West Park Recycling Center. It's called West Park Consumer Recycling Center. And it's on West Park between Chimney Rock and Fountain View.
I know that.
It's a drive up, it's the one that you drive
Every
through.
time I think about it, I remember how rude the collector was to me. Me and Dad forgot to pre-sort the materials properly.
Oh.
But Best Buy also takes back just about anything.
Oh, that's true. I forgot. They do that.
The only, well, they'll take back nearly any electronics. The only thing that they won't handle for you for free is CRT computers and, you know,
Yeah, the old big fat
flat
monitors.
panel TVs. There, they'll take them, but you pay a little fee and you get like a gift card in exchange
Yeah,
for
it's
the
in the
fee.
back.
But-
So they have drop containers at the front door when you go in Best Buy. They have these little, you know, containers with holes in them for you to drop that kind of stuff in, so that it gets recycled. Okay, are we cool? Okay. So here's the solution to trash. If you are the kind of person that is kind of unconscious about it and lets go of it as you go through your day, then you want to establish a habit that allows you to circle back and pick it up. So maybe you want to get a little grocery bag from the grocery store kind of bag and go around at night and spend 5 minutes picking up trash. Just walking through the house and picking up trash and throwing it all at once. Maybe that's the better solution for you than trying to remember it. Like when I make trash, I go to the trash can while it's in my hand. But not everybody thinks that way. So if that's not your drill, then create an alternate habit. So for you, that might be taking the trash around once a day or once a week and picking it all up and actually throwing it in the trash. Okay? I had a client who said that trash was a problem for him because he lived upstairs, and of course the dumpster was downstairs and across the parking lot, and he would fill up this big trash can, and then he had to maneuver it down the stairs and across into the dumpster, and it was a big pain to him because it was really hard. And my first thought was, don't make it that big. Just because they sell extra large trash cans doesn't mean you have to use them, right? It's much easier on you if you take a small bag down the stairs to the dumpster every day instead of waiting 2 weeks and having 2 weeks worth of trash and then having to sling it over your shoulder and drag it down. No, right? So his solution was take a bag down every day, a small bag, when he went down the stairs to get in his car to go to work. He had to go downstairs then. If he could take his, laptop or electronics or whatever he was taking with him in his phone, and he could take a little bag of groceries and dump it in the dumpster on the way to the car, it was much easier to handle that way. And he wasn't setting himself up to be irritated and refuse to take the trash down, and then it was overtaking his entire apartment because he was annoyed about that. So this shift in behavior was make it smaller, do it more frequently, right? Trash. Here's a good one. So how many of us go on trips and we pack and go on the trip and we come back and the luggage goes into the bedroom floor or the closet floor and sits there sort of half open, right? With all the stuff from the trip still in there and you just sort of ignore it. And then it stays there for months until you're going on the next trip and you have to get rid of the old trip to pack for the new trip. Jaime's grinning. I'm guessing that makes sense to him. I don't like to unpack either, actually. It's always a challenge for me to talk myself into it. But here's the trick for me. I don't do it all in one sitting. And whether you don't like to unpack because you don't want to face the dirty laundry you've created, or whether you don't want the hassle of putting everything back in its original place. Like we take so much stuff with us when we go, and there's toiletries and clothes and shoes and whatever entertainment you brought with you, and it all has to go back. Whether it's annoying to put it back or whether you don't want to do the laundry, either way, the solution is to not do it all in one sitting, right? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I have a thought. This is not strictly related to travel, but to the earlier points that my house used to go unclean for months because I hate cleaning as much as those people you're talking about hate laundry. So
everybody hates cleaning.
So I finally set myself a new rule that I would clean for 15 minutes every day after breakfast to a timer. It takes about 2 weeks to go around the park that way.
Awesome, and you get it done that way.
And I found another fringe benefit. Well, two really. One is I get a little more exercise, and the other is I have gotten rid of some of the clutter now that I have to actually clean around it regularly.
Right? That's a good point. Very good idea. That's the perfect solution for I hate to do this, therefore I'm not going to do it all day long or all in one sitting, right? Yeah. So if that's how you're getting hung up with your luggage, Don't do all the laundry at once. Go do one load of laundry and then come back the next day and do another load of laundry. Don't put everything back. I see. Don't put everything back yet. Go put a little bit back and walk away. Set the timer for 15 minutes and put things back for 15 minutes and go away. Eventually, the luggage is not infinite. Even though it looks like it's stuffed full to the gills, you will get to the bottom of it. It'll just take a little bit, and you'll have it packed and put away in 3 or 4 days instead of, it's sitting there for 6 months and you're climbing around and the cats are sleeping on it and covered in hair, which is what would happen at my house. The cats would move in and go, "Thanks for making the cushy bed. Really appreciate that." And then everything I own would be covered in hair. Yes, ma'am.
If I have a trip in 6 months, I'll leave my suitcase open to be packing for 6 months.
Oh, which is why you need to get it empty and get it up, right? So you don't spend 6 months packing.
When I come home, I have no problem putting it away, but packing, I take forever to pack to take with me. Yeah.
Well, so I wouldn't do it 6 months in advance. And it was actually one of my suggestions. If you, we all tend to overpack when we're doing it in a hurry, right? Like somehow if it's the night before and the plane is in the morning and you're panicking, you just start grabbing stuff, right? And it all goes in the suitcase because you can't decide. If you give yourself, a week in advance so that you're doing part of your packing every night before the trip, then you have a little bit more time to make decisions and you can be more logical about it.
Yeah.
Come on in, feel free. It's a way to take some of the stress of the packing out of it. Give yourself a little bit more time to do it, and then you're a little better prepared. And you won't pick as much, you won't put as much in, so there won't be as much to unpack on the other end, is what I'm saying. So you can give yourself more time, you can do the laundry in shifts, you can put stuff away to a timer for a little bit at a time, and a week later, the luggage is gonna be gone and put away, right? This is about the closet. Okay, so a lot of when I go into work in people's spaces, some people I find have shopping bags that still have stuff in them that are sort of along the wall, in the closet, on the floor, in the pantry on the floor, in the kitchen under the table. There's something about, for some people, the step of getting through the door with it and then unpacking it isn't as fun or is kind of irritating, or what Penny says to me is she's too hot. Like when she comes out from a day running around and she's super hot and she comes in and she's not doing nothing except sitting under the ceiling fan trying to cool off, right? So it's not something that she wants to do right away. So if you are one of those people that brings in shopping bags and stops, eventually those start to collect, right? And you end up with a bunch of clutter and you don't know what's in there. And one time I found a collection where they had bought onions and something paper, and it went into the bottom of the pantry and then it kind of got buried, and when I found it, the onions were rotted and the stuff in there of course was ruined because the onions had rotted. So I'm not exactly sure why it didn't smell terrible, except that I guess the bag was closed enough that there wasn't like a trigger odor that she noticed right away, and I didn't notice it until I opened the bag, but then it was like, wow. If you let them pile up, you're gonna A, not know what you have, and B, not remember what you bought, and B, not be able to find what you bought, and it's a type of clutter that happens. So the source behavior is, I'm hot, I don't want to deal with it right now. I have to race into the bathroom as soon as I come in the door. Like this happens to me all the time. I come home and I immediately have to go to the bathroom, like everything's coming off my arms while I'm racing to the bathroom, and then I have to come back out and pick myself back up. If you shed on the way in and never circle back around, you're gonna have a collection of stuff to mess with, and it's gonna get in the way. So one of the things you can do is create a empty out the shopping bag day, right? Like maybe every Saturday you go through the house and find all the bags that have come in the house over the week and put them all away. Or you do that some evening or some afternoon. The idea being that it becomes one of your chores. If you're not comfortable and it's not your likelihood or habit to put things away when you come home with them, then you need to create a habit to deal with them later so that they don't build up. And you certainly don't want to do it all at once, like once a month. You want to do it more frequently than that so that it doesn't create the wall of bags everywhere. I've done a lot of, by the time you get to the bag and empty it again, the stuff is expired, the food is dead. In the extreme situation in the hoarding apartment that I did, one of the bags we touched, I wasn't there, the girls did it, and I felt so bad. They touched it and an egg exploded. Because it was an egg carton full of eggs that had been sitting there rotting. And we disturbed the bag and, right? So that's the extreme version of your shopping bag becomes toxic if it stays too long. So you don't want that to happen. You don't want the rotting onions. But you also don't want to lose the Band-Aids that you bought and you forgot were there, and you don't want to lose the mouthwash and rebuy it 17 times, right? So just recognize if you have a bunch of full shopping bags around everywhere, you need a process to deal with it. And that's your behavior change that you can try to do to make a difference. Sometimes people are not putting it away because they'll say to me, there's nowhere to put it. Right? Like that's the very first thing they say. I don't have any place to put it. So that implies a different clutter problem, right? Which means that you've filled up all your storage spaces and it's time to go through and purge. You've got too much stuff. If you're coming home with shopping that you can't put away because everything's full, it's time to go through and start getting rid of stuff because you own more than will fit in your storage facility in the house, right? So that's also a behavior thing. You need to figure out a process under which you're willing to go back and start clearing out spaces. Sometimes it's easy ones like the pantry. That's an easy one to go, like I can't put any more groceries in the pantry. Well, A, you're probably not shopping faster than you're cooking, right? And B, you're probably not churning the contents based on expiration dates fast enough. So it just means you need to go and do your quarterly purge of the pantry instead of ignoring it and just continuing to add. And people are always surprised what they find in the pantry when you go in there. I mean, that's an example, but everybody goes to the grocery store a lot. And so there's always a portion of the kitchen that is about food incoming that isn't outgoing. And if you're not cooking and you're not eating it, you're just building your collection bigger. And unless you're one of those coupon clippers that's trying to build a stockpile against Armageddon, yeah, you probably need to churn it more than that. Yes, ma'am?
Let me tell you, my Weight Watchers group is very generous with coupons. You get a new one almost every week, and they're almost always in batches. Buy 6 frozen dinners, buy 8 frozen dinners. My freezer is jammed full most of the time these days.
Right?
I get a lot of exercise just loading it.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, that's one of those, the coupon wants you to buy 6 because then they sell more product that way. Like they don't care about where you're going to put it or if you're going to eat it. They just want it to go. So
How it gets eaten.
Eventually.
My freezer stores most of the
Well,
stuff
that's
I
good.
can't eat fast enough.
Well, that's good. All right, I'm not that fast, so I don't like to keep, other people keep, really stocked refrigerators and kitchens. And then they're cooking food all the time, and so it's always circling around and it doesn't matter. But I'm not one of those people, so I don't have to worry about it in my house, thank goodness. You probably have a really stocked fridge, just not right now.
No, it's already filled up.
They just moved. We emptied one old fridge and went into the new fridge, but they managed to fill it up already. That's funny. Okay, what else? Oh, this is a good one. Some of us are guilty of starting and not finishing projects. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a matter of, maybe you're a little ADD, maybe you don't have as much free time as you wish, maybe you have a really creative mind and you have a whole lot of projects that you want to do, maybe you're moving or you're renovating the house and there's 1,000 things to do. Whatever it is, there are people who have clutter because they are starting and not finishing projects, and so all of their unfinished projects are all over the house, right? So what's the behavior fix for that? Don't leave them all out, right? Circle around behind and say, I am not going to finish all these things, and so I can pack some of them up until I'm ready. People get worried that they're going to forget what they have. I suggest you make a list. I have this project A, project B. As you box them up and put them away with all their parts and their unfinishedness, I'm fixing this chair, I'm stitching this pillow, I'm whatever, fill in the blank, whatever you're doing. I'm doing something creative. Pack it away and make a list that you put on the fridge. And so when you feel inspired to go do something, you can go check the list of projects that are waiting your attention, and you know what they are. It's better not to leave everything out. And I get the feedback that they get left out because people say, I don't want to forget that it's there, or I'm going to come back to it, or I'm going to get to it later while they're doing these other 15 projects. It's like, but you don't have to live with all of them in an open stage of not quite finished while you get around to it, right? If it's going to take you 8 months to circle back to refinishing this chair, you might as well pack it away somewhere until you're actually ready to finish. And don't live with the chair and the newspaper and the brush and the, you know what I'm saying, all of the things you need to have to do it, right? All sitting around on the floor somewhere. Make it a package and move it, make it a list, and then you don't have to live with the clutter from all your projects, okay? That's the projects. Haha, this is a good one. A lot of times when I go to people's houses, there's a donation box in the corner of the house for the stuff that's going to go to donation. But invariably, it's the biggest box they can find. You know, it's like the refrigerator box. Or it's the biggest moving box that they have that's super large. And they've been pitching, look, this is where I've been putting all my donations. Well, how come you haven't donated it? Well, I can't lift it. This is the problem with that, right? So if you are trying to make donations and you don't have a mover living in your house, you need to make it so that you can actually pick it up. So if the clutter is your donation pile waiting to go because you've made it so big nobody can pick it up, or maybe it's because you're sticking it over there because it makes you nervous to donate. Like sometimes it's just that I think I want to donate, but I can't quite take it out of the house. It makes me too nervous, right? So if that's true, A, go for bags that you can carry. Go for smaller bags. We're back to the small bag theory, right? Fill up a small bag for donations and then go put it in the trunk and start another bag. Fill that one up and go put it in the trunk. And then whenever you're out and about in your life and you go through a drop-off facility, you can swing by for 5 minutes and let them take the bags out of the car, right? That way they actually get out of the house and you can lift them. You don't require anybody else's intervention. Don't go to the box. A, it creates a corner of chaos in your house, and B, it means that you have to have someone come and help you. And then try to get that box into a regular car, right? People are always trying to give me this extra big box of stuff to take to Goodwill. It's like, yeah, that won't fit in my car. There's no way I can shove that in my car. I have to bag it in something else that will actually go in my car. So make it smaller, take it more often, so that you can manage your own donations. And then if you're nervous about donating, if that's what's causing the backup, then also the small bags solve that problem. Take a small bag, take one small bag and go donate it. And then sit with it and see how it feels. If it makes you nervous, you can wait a little while before you do it again. But we're going to hope that you take a bag and you walk away and you don't worry about it anymore and it's okay. And then you're encouraged to go do another bag again. It's like, you know, it's not quite, what's the opposite of emergent therapy? It's, you know, testing the waters a little bit, trying a little bit at a time and getting used to it as you go.
Desensitization.
Thank you. That's what I'm thinking of. Desensitization. Desensitization is what she said. It makes it easier if you practice it as you go in little amounts until you're comfortable with the idea of donating. Some people, it makes you really nervous to let go of the stuff. So if it does, you know, practice until it's better, right? Yes, ma'am.
Question. I got a new set of kitchen knives. I don't know what to do with the old kitchen knives. I put them in my vehicle to take somewhere, but I'm in danger of bringing them back into the house because I don't know what to do with them.
So those can go to Goodwill. They will take them.
They will?
Yes, and
Even if they're loose?
I would not give them to them loose. Here's what I would do. Take a little pile of newspaper and slap them into a newspaper and roll them up and fold them up and tape them in. So that you can hand this newspaper packet like as if you were going to move knives and hand it to them that way.
Okay.
So then it's a little safer, like you're not trying to hand off a loose knife to somebody.
Yeah, and that made me a little anxious.
Right? I don't blame you. It would make me nervous too. But that's how I even, when I'm packing knives in a moving box, I don't just throw the knives loose into a box.
Right.
I wrap them all up into a big packet that's thick and tape it up so that it can go into the box, but the packet's moving around the box, not the knives.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any, this could be a whole session topic for all I know, but do you have any hints for donating with the least hassle? I have run into quite a few places. We don't take electronics. We don't take National Geographics. Wait till we examine this. You want a receipt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So do you want me to answer about the specific things to
How
donate?
many of you would rather just go dump it off all and take off? What's your best option?
Well, there are some of the donation boxes around that take clothing and stuff. And then the household items, I still do urban recycling in Houston. I still put things at the curb and let it disappear. It's a very easy thing to do. There's so many people, there's so much foot traffic around here. Unless you live in a really restrictive neighborhood, you can probably get away with around trash day, putting something out the curb and it will walk off. Like somebody that wants it will take it away.
Fine if you have an open front yard.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do when you have a mattress?
Oh.
Because no one will take them.
That's correct. Houston Furniture Bank does because they actually recycle them. They tear them apart and
So do you have to take them over there?
no, they'll come and pick them up.
Do they
Houston-
take pillows too?
I don't know about the pillows now that you say that. Pillows you can take to the vet with your towels and blankets.
Oh.
They use those for the animals, but the mattresses, Houston Furniture Bank is the only place I know of in the city that will pick them up.
There's a whole list. I just donated a mattress. It has to be clean, no spots
No stains.
or anything
They're
on
used
it.
to furniture.
And there's a whole list that you can get from like the Dome.
Salvation Army.
places.
Okay, cool.
Well, but I mean, it's in good shape.
If it's in good shape, then it should be okay. And Houston Furniture Bank has they do a little resale store, but they're supporting a primary mission, which is to provide people with furniture and stuff for, after post-disaster. Their house burned down, something is flooded, blah, 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 and they donate stuff away that way. So if it's in good shape, they'll take it. And I have to call them about that because their warehouse burned down last year. And they had to go into a new location, and I'm not sure, they had a place where they would tear up the mattresses and recycle the wood and recycle all the cotton and all that stuff. And I don't know if they're set up to do that in the new place, so I need to find that out. But they should take the one that's in good shape. Okay. The last one is paper,
That's me.
right? We all know everybody has paper in their house, paper blizzards, paper piles. So what's the source material, what's the source problem of paper everywhere, right? Is it that you don't like to do with the mail? Well, we've had that conversation, right? Is it that you are nervous about not knowing what's okay to keep and what's okay to throw away? So if you're the person that doesn't like to do the mail, yeah, everybody in this room can give you this lecture. You've all heard it before. You got to have a habit about the mail. The mail's coming every day. You got to deal with it every day, or every other day, or at least 2 or 3 times a week. You have to play with the mail because it is a source of clutter, and it's a constant source of clutter that requires attention. So creating whatever habit works for you around processing the mail frequently will make your life better in terms of paper clutter. The other thing is if you're not dealing with the paper and you're creating piles because you don't know what to keep and what to toss, it's time to get a little education, right? You can go out on the internet and find a million articles about what paper you need to keep and what you don't need to keep. And if you take the piece of paper that you have and you don't know what it is, type the name of the piece of paper in there, explanation of benefits, and Do I have to keep an explanation of benefits and read a couple people's articles? Get educated about what's okay to let go of and what you have to keep. You can ask your accountant, you can ask me, you can do all sorts of research, but you are not incapable of learning what needs to stay and what needs to go. You just need to do a little research. You just need to get a little education about it so that you feel okay. And if you find that, in the process of learning, you can still go through and get rid of stuff that you actually know is trash, because it isn't every single piece of paper that you don't know what to do about it. Usually there's some portion of the paper that you don't know what the answer is, which makes you do nothing, right? So there's still a whole bunch of paper that if you looked at it, you would know to throw out. If you let yourself do that, your pile will shrink, and in the meantime, you can learn what's okay to keep and toss and learn to deal with it on the other end. Paper is something that frightens everybody, but it's not rocket science. It's not super hard to learn what's okay to toss and what you need to keep. And anytime you have to ask, you can call me and tell me, I don't know what to do with this piece of paper, and I'll give you advice. Or a million other people. Yes, ma'am.
This is the first time I've been here. Are the previous talks on paper available on video?
They are, actually.
And how do you access it?
It's on the YouTube channel where you will be watching this video, actually, youtube.com/user/Clutter Fairy Houston.
I think it's users plural.
Oh, /users, plural, okay. youtube.com/users, USERS/Clutter Fairy Houston. That will get you to the YouTube channel. Or you can search by my name, Gayle Goddard, and that'll come up as well. Yeah, and we talk about paper in here all the time, so almost any of them that you watch, regardless of the topic, somebody will ask me about paper, and there will be a discussion of paper in there, so.
I'm sorry, I was wrong. It's user singular.
Oh, it's you?
Take it all back.
You take it all back, okay.
So
Try again.
Say again.
youtube.com/user, USER/Clutter Fairy Houston. And we'll probably cut the old one out. Okay. So who wants to tell me about their roadblocks, their clutter roadblocks, the stuff that hangs them up? This is your opportunity to say, this is the one that makes me miserable.
Too many body lotions.
What do you do with financial statements?
So what kind of financial statements? Are you talking about your personal statements? Are you talking about bank statements?
Well,
Both, okay. So your personal financial statements, you don't mean investment statements, you mean somebody's doing a balance sheet and income statement for you.
I mean investment.
You mean investment statements and bank statements. Okay, so those are source material for your tax return. So you need to keep them according to the tax rules. 3-year for personal, 6-year for business.
But do you have to keep every month, or do you just have to keep maybe the first and the last month?
If you
Or
get a year-end summary, a lot of the investment companies will publish, they send you a monthly statement, and then they'll publish a year-end summary that has all the transactions. If you get a year-end summary that has all transactions in it, you can pitch everything else before that. Absolutely. And then you keep that with the tax year that it covers. Okay? Same with bank statements, it's all the same thing. That's third-party verification of your income and expenses, and that's considered a good source material for tax information. So you're going to want to keep those according to those tax rules. Yes,
I've been using strictly electronic bank statements for a long time. What would you do with those?
so it's okay with the electronic ones, the same thing. They're okay with electronic copies. If you got audited, you would have to print out or forward them, the PDF of the bank statement. They're happy to look at it. But same thing, you want the whole transaction history for the tax year. So usually for bank statements, they don't give you a summary at the end of the year for your regular bank accounts. The investment statements, they do.
I've
So,
been pretty much trusting the bank to keep them in its computerized record.
well, I mean, usually
Save
you can download them as PDFs and save them on your computer too, so that you don't have to go back and download them later. I do that for clients a lot though, where I'm going back and helping them do some sort of financial accumulation work, and most of them keep 6 or 7 years out there available, most of the major banks. But you have to go by your own bank's rules. If you have a little credit union and they don't have a robust mobile interface or website and you can't get to all of them, then yeah, you better print them when they come and save them somewhere. You do want that, financial banking history to support your tax returns. So whether you keep them as electronic versions or paper versions, you want the whole year of transactions. What else?
Do you deal with electronic clutter as well?
You mean in my business? Not really.
Okay.
Just because that's not my area of expertise, I'm not a big...
Do you have references?
I have to think about that, yeah.
Specializes in that.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
I know how it is when your drive suddenly overflows and you can't
Right.
remember all
And your
those
computer's about to
sorted
explode.
by numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of information about that out there, and there are people that are better suited than me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not the techno wizard at all,
That's
so
okay. I thought I'd ask.
sorry, thank you. What else gets back people up?
I have a lot of hobbies and I can't put stuff in the garage because the garage is not
It's too hot.
sealed and the critters get in there, or, if it rains real hard, the water comes up, and so I have to store stuff in the house and there's no space.
So you may be more creative than your house will hold. So it may be a process of going through the hobbies and finding the ones that are your favorites and looking at the other ones that are not and thinning the contents down. I talk about that with artists a lot because if artists like one thing, they like lots of things, right, usually. And so they have all the supplies for paper and they have all the supplies for painting, and they have all the supplies for beading, and they have, they have big collections. But they only do the scrapbooking, and they don't really do the other ones except every once in a while. Well, depending on your attention and your focus to the hobby, it's a good way to, if you're a woodworker, whatever the hobby is, if you have a lot of supplies and a varied population and a limited space, you probably want to pick your top 4, 3, or 5 favorites, and then the ones that you want to keep, slim it way, way down to, here's the special tool for metalworking that would cost me a lot of money to replace, but all this other stuff about metalworking I can replace easily if 10 years from now I want to get into metalworking again. You know what I'm saying? Just really shrink the ones that aren't you're not really into right now down to a really small pile.
I think I'm more into collecting the stuff for the hobby than the hobby itself.
That is a different problem, honey. That is another problem altogether. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned of cat hairs earlier. This is my mother's problem, not mine, but she has has bought a lot of toys and scratching posts that her cat doesn't care to use.
I know, right? We always want our cats, we collect for cats just like people do for kids, right? Yeah. So that's another thing that can go to the vet. If you have more things than the animal will play with, add them into the bag of towels and send them off to the vet so that they can go home with other little people's animals, because other little critters can play with them in the cages at the vet, because, yeah, that's just another way for people to shop faster than they actually need. Because the cat is usually happy with a crumbled up piece of paper in a box, right? They don't care about nothing else. Mine don't at all.
You said vet, but shelters as well.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Animal shelters, vet. There's a vet hospital system here that does emergency vet and services, and that's where I go and donate here. But yeah, any kind of animal shelter, they need that kind of stuff all the time, so they'll be happy to take it off. Yes?
As far hobbies, I was into woodworking. I don't have the tools or the facility anymore, yada yada, but I have a whole stack of books on woodworking, thinking one day I might get back into it, but I haven't.
And here you are, right?
I'm 66. Do you hang on to? And that's what I do when I do crafts or projects. I'll buy all the books to make sure I can teach myself everything I need.
I know, crafters are book crazy, right?
Yeah.
All craft people buy every book. Like for a while there, any kind of a new bead book came out, I was racing to the store to buy it. And I had to cure myself of that because the book companies catch on and then they publish as fast as possible.
Yeah, and I'm afraid to get rid of them, thinking, okay, well, that's my problem with a lot of getting rid of, that I might need it.
You might need it. So here's what I'll tell you about the books.
I
A,
can
you
buy
can,
them again.
you can keep a representative sample. B, you can donate them to Texas Art Asylum here and let other crafty people use them.
Texas what?
Art Asylum, I'll fill you in afterwards.
Okay.
That's a local resource.
You could put them on Craigslist.
You can also, yeah, exactly, donate them, sell them some other way, take them to half price. And truthfully, Penny has done this a lot, actually. She likes to collect craft books, and then collection will get too big, and she'll let go of some of them. And then, one of them was 20 years ago, she and her husband used to do soap making. So recently, she was having a conversation with somebody, and she remembered a book she had, and she went back on Amazon and bought a used copy of it. Like, she's given away a whole bunch of books and gone back and selectively bought 2 or 3 of them back again.
So rather than having the book itself, I could make a list of the books, and if I need them.
Take a picture of it, make
Oh,
make
yeah,
a
the
library
USB
list,
and-
whatever.
yeah.
If you have 20 books and you're not doing woodworking, then maybe you can keep 3 of them that you really like and let the rest of them go. And then if you suddenly get a hair one day and you get out some tools, you can go find a book.
Yeah,
Right.
same thing with sewing books.
Amazon will deliver it in 2 days. Right? Yes, ma'am.
A lot of those crafts things can get out of date.
It's true, they do. They're not as current, but it's
Especially
still
if they're referring to websites or certain tools.
right. And they're fun to flip through and look at. It's sort of like a chef that flips through cookbooks, right?
Yeah, something
crafty people like to look through crafty stuff.
Hardly making it any more complicated than frozen dinner.
Well, it's in the end, if you aren't doing that process anymore, then you don't need to stay stocked as if you are. You can keep the cool, slim, there's always the slim representative sample of the really expensive stuff or the really cool stuff or the really unique tool, and the rest of it is replaceable and can go out and let somebody use it until you actually get around to trying to work with wood again. One of my friends used to be a big glass bead maker, and that requires large equipment and things that fire and tools and vent hoods, and it's a whole big workshop setup to blow glass like that. And it was really getting hard for her physically to do it. It was hard for her to manipulate and roll her. You have to roll the mandrel constantly while you're over the flame while you're doing it, and she couldn't do that anymore. And it was she had been really into it, and it was a hard thing for her to let go. But we had this discussion, she was moving, and it's like, this isn't going to fit, and you can't physically do it, so it's time to let that go. So she kept some little bits so that she had a representative sample, and then the rest she sold off to other bead makers who, gave her some money for the stuff because it was good equipment, it was good supplies, and then she didn't have to move with it. Sometimes we just have to move on to the next craft, right? So it's time, right? That shows
It's
eight.
it's a little fast.
Is it
though.
fast?
Yeah.
So does anybody have any last questions before we stop? Yes, sir. Ask away. You've been so patient.
Just plain old procrastination. You kind of touched on it with do a little bit every day, but somewhere between overwhelm and just plain vanilla, I'll do anything what needs to be done.
Okay, still do that today. So the trick is just to get off dead center. Ed and I talk about this all the time. Sometimes it's just a matter of you have to take the first step, and it doesn't even have to be a big step. It can just be small. So maybe it isn't that you do 5 minutes instead of 15. Get a kitchen timer, set it for 5 minutes, agree to do 5 minutes, and then do the happy dance when it goes off, right? Like sometimes you just have to go, I'm going to string together 5 minutes today, and that's all I got. And sometimes you can do 5 minutes and get to the end and set it again and do another 5 minutes. It's just like any other habit, right? You have to practice until it gets comfortable and easy. And if getting off center is your hard part, then aim for the smallest incremental unit of focus and see if you can do that. And Ed, I think, has a comment.
I was going to add to that, there's a growing body of research on habit formation, and one of the things that really seems to work is to find appropriate trigger behaviors, find things that you do all the time already. So, you know, like if your problem is you have an accumulation of stuff in the bathroom, then every time you finish brushing your teeth, spend 2 minutes pulling things out that you're ready to get rid of in the bathroom. You know, if your problem is, too much clothing in the closet, cultivate a habit where every time you go to put away the clean laundry, you give yourself 5 or 10 minutes to go through the stuff and pull out things for donation. So creating habits by associating the new behavior you want to cultivate with
something you already
a
do.
behavior you already do habitually. Brushing your teeth, putting the dinner dishes in the dishwasher. Take something you already do and then link the new habit you want to cultivate to it. And it needs to be somewhat associated in the same space or in the same area of your life. But it's a good way to cultivate a new habit.
Right?
And take little tiny bites.
I'm a big proponent of little tiny bites. Like, sometimes you just don't want to empty the dishwasher all at once, right? It's just annoying. So I'll empty part of it and walk away and do something else. And the next time I come in the kitchen, I'm like, and I'll empty some more and I walk away, come back later. Sometimes you just have to make the bites small enough that although they're irritating, you are willing to do them, right? And I think we get hung up with the idea that once we start, we have to get to the end. And when you're looking at a really big project, the end is days away, right? So that's not really you don't want to visualize all that you have to do. You only want to visualize the next 5 minutes of what you have to do. Because then you can get to that 5 minutes and, eventually 5 minutes times 30 is a lot of time and you will have gotten a lot of work done. Does that make sense?
Perhaps the worst kind of clutter is the one caused by thinking about all you have to do.
Mind clutter.
Right. Yes.
What do you do with photographs?
Oh, that's a question. Okay, I'm gonna come back to you and I'm gonna stop the video. I'll see you guys next month. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming. Yay.